Camila Ramirez died 3 times before anyone noticed. Not in body. Her body was fine, sitting straight at the dinner table, sipping wine like nothing was wrong. But something had left her. Something had slipped from behind her eyes and vanished into the wallpaper. And by the time her parents realized it, by the time anyone even looked closely, she was already gone, locked somewhere none of them could follow. And that all started on a Sunday night, with a perfect dinner. Camila Ramirez was the quiet one, in a house full of loud voices, her father's booming laugh, her mother's constant commentary, Elena's confident declarations, Lucas's teenage interruptions. Camila barely made a sound. She was the middle child, the artist, the one with smudged fingers and faraway eyes. So when she finally spoke that night, during dinner, no one really listened. "Do you guys ever feel like we're being watched?" Her father, Martin, chuckled as he poured more wine. "Only when your mother glares at me." Angela playfully swatted his arm. Elena rolled her eyes, still scrolling through her phone beneath the table. Lucas let out a lazy snort. "That's creepy, Cam." Camila didn't laugh. She stared at her plate. Her chicken was untouched. She said nothing else for the rest of the meal. Dinner had been normal. If anyone asked, that's what each of them would say later. Normal. Roasted chicken with rosemary, garlic bread, a salad with too much vinaigrette. Elena talked about her graduate school applications. Lucas showed everyone a TikTok he thought was hilarious. Martin joked about retirement, which was still 10 years away. Angela kept adjusting the dimmer on the chandelier. She liked the lighting just right. It was calm, maybe even perfect. But the next morning, Camila didn't come out of her room. Angela knocked, twice. When there was no answer, she cracked the door open. Camila was sitting cross-legged on the floor in her pajamas, staring at the wall. "Honey?" "She didn't leave," Camila whispered, not turning her head. Angela blinked. "Who?" "The woman. The one from last night." Angela laughed nervously. "Sweetheart, there was no one here." Camila's eyes darted to her. Yes, there was. In the corner of the dining room. She had long black hair. Her mouth didn't move when she spoke. Angela closed the door. Martin was convinced it was drugs. Edibles, mushrooms, something they pass around in those art circles. "I knew that program she's in was too unstructured." Angela disagreed. "She's not like that. She's never even had a drink. Maybe she cracked." "Don't say that." But later that night, Camila told Lucas not to sleep in his room. "Why not?" he asked, halfway between sarcasm and concern. "She was standing at the foot of your bed," she said flatly. "She watches the youngest one, the cleanest soul. That's her favorite." Lucas didn't sleep at all. By Thursday, Camila's behavior could no longer be brushed off as eccentric. She started locking herself in the bathroom for hours, said the mirror was trying to talk to her, cried when Martin turned off the hallway light because it's safer when it's bright, refused to eat anything except dry toast, drew frantic images of twisted faces on every scrap of paper she could find. Angela found one sketch taped to the refrigerator. It showed the whole family at the dinner table, but Camila had drawn a shadowy figure behind herself, a towering woman with hollow eyes and no mouth. When Angela confronted her, Camila calmly said, "She likes when we eat together. It's easier for her to blend in." Angela finally broke down. "Martin, we have to take her in. This isn't her. Something's wrong." At the clinic, Camila didn't scream or resist. She sat quietly in the intake office, arms folded tightly across her stomach. The attending nurse, a woman named Riva, asked the standard questions. Camila answered them all. "Have you had trouble sleeping?" "Yes." "Have you experienced visual or auditory hallucinations?" "Number, they're not hallucinations if they're real." "Have you had thoughts of harming yourself or others?" "No," she said. Then, "But I know she wants me to." The nurse marked something on the form and offered Camila a blanket. Camila didn't take it. That first night in the psychiatric hospital, Camila was evaluated by 2 separate doctors. Both noted that she was cooperative, intelligent, and well-spoken, but delusional. On the second night, she stood in the middle of her room for 5 hours straight, unmoving. On the third, she asked the nurse what the protocols were if a non-human entity entered the facility. By the end of the week, the attending psychiatrist, Dr. Leo Hastings recommended she be held for further evaluation. He used words like early onset schizophrenia, detachment from reality, and persecutory delusions. Angela and Martine sat in the hallway outside the ward, dazed. "This isn't real," Angela said. "She's not sick. She's Camila. She's our girl." Martine didn't respond. He was staring at a drawing Camila had given him through the glass. It showed him and Angela standing in front of a house engulfed in vines. The house had no doors. Camila kept trying to explain. "To everyone," she said during one group session. "They keep telling me I'm paranoid, but I'm not. Something's wrong." She spoke with eerie calm, as if she were the only sane person in a room full of lunatics. Her fellow patients avoided her after the first week. One said they woke up to Camila humming in a corner. Another said she stood over his bed and whispered that the walls were bleeding from the inside out. She said the moon had a mouth, one whispered to a nurse, that she could hear it chewing. No one visited Camila after that, until Elena came. She hadn't seen her sister since the day Camila was admitted. She stood behind the safety glass of the visitor room, arms crossed. "You scared the hell out of Mom," Elena said. "She can't sleep. Dad keeps pretending this'll pass." Camila just stared at her. "Are you even trying to get better?" Elena asked. Camila leaned closer to the glass. "You're going to see her too, eventually." Elena went pale. "Don't be creepy." "You already did," Camila whispered. "You just looked away." That night, Camila didn't sleep. She laid on the hospital mattress, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. She smiled, because the woman had finally stopped speaking, and now she was just waiting. Elena Ramirez didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in caffeine, in measurable data, in clear answers with clean edges. That's why she'd always been the stable one, pre-med, top of her class, rational, unshakable. But ever since visiting Camila, something had shifted. It began with a dream. She was back in their childhood home, standing in the hallway outside Camila's room. Everything was dim. The door creaked open slowly, and a woman stood inside. Not Camila, not their mother. She was tall, her black hair dragging across the floor like wet threads. Her back was to Elena, but Elena felt her staring. Then the woman began to turn. Elena woke up drenched in sweat, her own scream echoing off the walls of her apartment. The hallucinations, or whatever they were, didn't stop. Elena caught her reflection blinking when she wasn't. She heard someone breathing behind her while brushing her teeth. Lights flickered at the hospital during her rounds. In one of the patient room mirrors, she swore she saw long black strands of hair trailing behind her as she walked. Once, she opened the fridge and found a sketch pinned to the back wall, a family portrait, but all the faces were missing except Camila's. She hadn't drawn since high school. She didn't tell anyone. Elena started researching schizophrenia in earnest, not for Camila anymore, but for herself. But no symptom explained how her phone kept unlocking on its own to display one word in the Notes app: door. Meanwhile, the clinic was off. Angela didn't like calling, but she did, just to check in, and the nurses sounded strange, distant, distracted. Then a headline popped up online: Psych facility temporarily suspends admissions after technical malfunctions and patient disappearances. It was Camila's hospital. Elena called. No one answered. When she finally got through, an exhausted administrator stammered something about data errors and renovations. She hung up before Elena could press. Still, Elena drove there 2 days later, just to see. Inside, the lights buzzed overhead. The air smelled like burnt wiring. One of the staff members, eyes rimmed red like she hadn't slept in days, walked past her mumbling something about a room they couldn't keep locked. Another nurse whispered to her colleague, "That girl, Ramirez, she's not like the others. She's always listening." Elena's heart raced. She found Camila in a chair by the window, calm, serene, hands folded in her lap. "Hey," Elena said, forcing a smile. Camila turned. "You see her now, don't you?" Elena didn't answer. She couldn't, because just behind the one-way mirror, in the glass, the black-haired woman stood again, still, unmoving. Camila's voice was quieter now. "She offered me peace, or power. Both come at a price. What kind of price? Elena whispered. Camila tilted her head. To remember everything, to know the truth, to let go of your name, that sort of thing. Elena's throat went dry. You're not making sense. You're just not ready. That night, Elena dug through old boxes in her parents' attic. Among yellowed journals and water-damaged photo albums, she found a letter. It was addressed to Rosalinda Ramirez, their grandmother, written in 1954. The letter was from a psychiatric ward in Mexico City. Rosalinda had been institutionalized at 19 for visions of a female entity in the walls and mirrors. Her treatment included electroshock, sedation, and eventual silence. The last note from her doctor said, Rosalinda claims the woman offers protection or dominion. She believes the entity to be real. Her eyes do not blink when she speaks of her. Their grandmother died before Elena was born. No one ever mentioned this. The next day, Angela visited Camila. She hadn't come in weeks. Too overwhelmed, she said. Too afraid. Camila was sitting up in bed this time, smiling as Angela approached. Mom, she said softly. Angela blinked. Hi, sweetheart. You look tired. Angela didn't reply. Something felt off. Camila's movements were too precise. Her smile, too symmetrical. She tilted her head to the left, but her reflection in the glass behind her tilted to the right. Angela's breath caught. This wasn't her daughter, or not just her daughter. Camila? Yes, Mom? Angela wanted to run, but she didn't. She took a step closer instead, and Camila's eyes blinked once, slowly, together. But in the reflection, the woman blinked back. Elena stood outside the hospital's visitor entrance, her hands trembling against the steering wheel. She couldn't go in again. Not today. Not after what she'd seen in the reflection. Camila's voice still echoed in her head. She offered me peace, or power. Both come at a price. Elena thought she was going crazy. The mirror thing. It had to be stress, paranoia. She hadn't slept. The letter from their grandmother couldn't be real, except it was. She'd found more. Old postcards hidden behind a false bottom in a jewelry box. One was dated 1955, sent from a convent in Oaxaca, Mexico. I see her less often now, but she always returns. She whispers my true name. She says I have to choose. Soon. It was signed simply, R. Elena booked the ticket the next morning. Oaxaca was blistering in the day, mysterious at night. She found the old convent with the help of a taxi driver who made the sign of the cross when she told him the address. You know that place? She asked in Spanish. He didn't answer, just said, some women go there and never come back the same. It wasn't a convent anymore, just ruins now. Ivy-covered stone, half the roof caved in. Elena stepped inside, her steps echoing against the old chapel floor. At the far end, there was a faded fresco, a woman painted in blue, her face obscured by long black hair, a halo behind her. Saints bowed at her feet, but none looked peaceful. They looked afraid. In the corner, carved in childlike scrawl into the stone, she walks between. She chooses the broken. She feeds on what we forget. At the local archive, Elena met an elderly nun named Sister Lucia who remembered Rosalinda Ramirez. She was odd, the woman said carefully. She never spoke unless she was alone, but she painted, always the same figure, a tall woman with dark hair, no face, no feet, just a presence. Elena leaned in. Did she say what it was? Lucia nodded. La Devora, the devourer, that's what she called her. Older than God, older than grief, a thing that finds women in silence, especially those ignored, discarded, unseen. Elena's breath caught. She doesn't just appear, Lucia continued. She waits. She offers two things, peace, to forget your pain, or power, to make others feel it. But you lose something, yourself, often, your memories, your name. Elena swallowed. And if you refuse her? Lucia looked away. She waits longer. Back home, the air felt different, thicker. Camila's room in the hospital had changed. Her sketches were no longer frantic. They were beautiful now, calm, detailed portraits of women Elena had never seen, eyes closed, smiling. Elena watched her sister sleep one evening through the glass. Something about the way her chest rose and fell felt offbeat, not human. Later, she sat across from her in the visitation room, You knew about Abuela, Elena said. Didn't you? Camila nodded. She came to me when I was a kid, the woman, after I got locked in the basement once. You remember? Elena frowned. I thought you made that up. I didn't. Camila's voice was flat. She was there. She told me she knew how it felt to be forgotten. She promised I'd never be alone again. Elena's voice cracked. Did you say yes? Camila didn't answer. She looked over Elena's shoulder instead. I can still say no, she whispered. But it's harder now. She speaks in my dreams, in the static, in the silence. Elena reached out, tears forming. We can fight her. There has to be a way. Camila blinked slowly. Science can't stop her. She's not measurable. She's not a disease. Elena's voice shook. Then what is she? Camila met her gaze for the first time in weeks. She's everything women bury to survive. Rage, grief, desperation, loneliness. She's the price of being invisible. That night, Elena dreamt of her grandmother for the first time. She was young, standing in front of the same mural Elena had found. Her hands were red with paint. She comes when no one listens, Rosalinda whispered. She takes what the world ignores. The wind blew. The woman appeared behind her. Rosalinda turned and smiled as the figure placed a hand on her shoulder. Elena woke screaming. When she returned to the hospital 2 days later, Camila was gone. Officially, she'd been transferred to another facility, but the staff refused to say where. When Elena asked to see the records, the director looked confused. We have no patient by that name, he said. Elena showed him her ID, her previous visitor logs. The director frowned. You've never been here before. That night, Elena returned home to find one of Camila's paintings on her desk. A woman in a hospital gown, standing in the middle of an empty room. The face was Camila's, but the eyes were not. The last time Elena saw her sister, it wasn't in the hospital. It wasn't even in a dream. It was on the street outside their childhood home. Rain was pouring. A car had pulled up across from the mailbox. Camila stepped out, wearing the same sweatshirt she used to wear at 16. Oversized, paint-stained, faded green. Her hair was damp, her shoes soaked. Elena stood frozen on the porch. Cam? She called. Camila looked up slowly. She smiled. It wasn't the smile that frightened Elena. It was the stillness behind it, like something was wearing her sister's skin, practicing what it meant to be human. She was gone before Elena could cross the lawn, vanished into the downpour like a ghost returning to mist. Elena did the only thing she hadn't tried yet. She went back to the clinic, this time pretending to be a new patient. The facility had changed, colder, emptier. Echoes stretched too long. Entire wings sealed off with red-taped warnings. No entry, under maintenance, staff whispered. The new intake nurse flinched when Elena asked about Camila Ramirez. Doesn't ring a bell, she said, but we've had unusual cases. If you're experiencing hallucinations, it's best to speak with Dr. Hastings. Elena smiled tightly. Already have. She found the old room, 402B, Camila's. The nameplate was gone, but Elena recognized the door. There was something etched into the wood now, deep, scratch-like carvings. Open me. When she stepped inside, the room was empty. No bed, no sheets, just one thing pinned to the wall, a charcoal sketch of La Devora. This one was different. She stood in a hallway of mirrors, hands open, mouth stitched shut. All around her were broken reflections of women, crying, screaming, silent, dissolving, and in the middle, a blank mirror. Elena stepped closer, and in the glass, her own reflection turned and looked at her. Later, when she called her parents to ask if Camila had come home, Angela hesitated. She was here last night, her mother said slowly, but she didn't come inside. She just stood in the backyard. Did you talk to her? She didn't answer when I called her name, just stared, like she was waiting for something. Martine got on the phone next. She's changed, Elena. Something's different. Do you think it's her? She asked. Silence. I don't know, he said. I don't think she blinked once. In the weeks that followed, Camila began showing up in strange places. At a church where she'd never worshipped. At the community center downtown. Once, outside Elena's university, standing beside a tree at dusk, watching students leave. She never spoke. She only watched. And then came the news. A young woman, an inpatient from Camilla's old ward, was found in her bathtub, water untouched, eyes wide, not drowned, not harmed, no cause of death, just fear, and a message carved into the mirror above the sink. She waits when we refuse her. Elena remembered something Sister Lucia had said. When she chooses someone and they say yes, it's not just about them. The door doesn't open only one way. The truth hit Elena one night like a cold slap. Camila had made the deal. Maybe not all at once, maybe not out loud, but she'd said yes, and that meant La Devora wasn't done. The final time Elena saw her, she wasn't sure it was her at all. It was in Camilla's old bedroom. The family had finally reopened it, though the air inside still felt heavy, like the walls were listening. Camila sat on the edge of the bed. She looked peaceful, almost happy. "Elena," she said softly. "You found her name, didn't you?" Elena meant light. She suddenly hated how fragile that sounded. Camila smiled. "She likes you. I don't want her to like me." "You will." Elena took a trembling step forward. "What did you give her?" Camila tilted her head. "My memories," she whispered. "The ones no one else ever cared about. The pain I carried. The loneliness. The years I waited for someone to listen." She leaned forward. "And now I feel nothing at all." Elena's heart shattered in slow motion. "Then it's not peace. It's erasure." Camilla's eyes didn't blink. "That's the difference between you and me," she said gently. "You still think feeling everything is the answer." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "It's not." Outside, the wind howled. Elena backed out of the room, something inside her screaming to run. And just before the door closed, Camilla's voice called again. "Tell Mom and Dad I'm happy." Elena turned, but the room was empty. She stood in the hallway for a long time, torn between grief and terror, torn between science and the impossible, torn between what she could prove and what she now knew. That La Devora wasn't a delusion. She was a choice, and Camila had chosen.